How is it on the other end of the world?
Dark.
Dark already.
Yeah. Yeah. It starts to get dark here in winter about, let's say, 5:30ish. And
All right.
since it's 7 o'clock at night now, so it's dark here.
Okay. So you're basically now at 7 o'clock in the evening.
Yep, correct.
Yeah. So you're 8 hours ahead.
Yep.
All right. All right. Mike, thank you for your time and your effort. Is it okay that
No
I
worries.
record this video?
Oh, that's fine with me.
Okay, perfect. We know each other for quite some time.
Correct.
We enjoyed a lot of hobbies together, like being in a band, playing some rock and roll music, some punk, some stress punk, let's say. And
Yes.
then you suddenly decided to go to Australia. So you get shit done. And
Yep.
tell me what made your decision to go to Australia, to the end or to the other side of the world?
It's basically two things. Probably since I was a kid, I always wondered what it was like to live in another country. And let's say when I was 19, I went backpacking to Australia for 6 months. And I really liked Australia, and I thought it was a country with like a lot of opportunities because it's a fairly young country. So it always stuck into the back of my mind, and some years later, the woman I was with basically wanted to make the step as well, and we basically decided to migrate, and so we made sort of a plan of action. And so yeah, that was more than 11 years ago now. So it's partly also because of the adventure, to sort of say. So yeah, that's probably the main reasons how I ended up here.
Okay, and you're now with another woman for quite some time now, and
Yep.
with Jane, right?
Yes.
And Jane, she had already did this business going on, or is it that you decided together to start up this business?
Basically, we did it together, and it sort of developed itself by accident. It more or less, when we moved in together, let's say her ex had most of the furniture, and I basically rented units. They were already furnished, so I just didn't have any furniture. So we didn't have a dining table, didn't have a coffee table, etc. And basically decided to make a few items ourselves. And we got so much response from people saying how cool it looked that we made a few more and started selling it sort of on marketplace and stuff. And from there on, it basically snowballed out of control. And we were doing it part-time, and it just became more and more. And then at one stage, we were that busy that basically quit our jobs and decided to do this full-time.
Wow, that's really cool, man. That's really cool. So you made quite from your hobby, you made your business.
More or less, yes.
More or less, yeah.
Yeah, more
Because
or less.
we struggled some time with different jobs, and we're making money, but satisfaction wasn't there. So
Not really.
no, exactly. And then you took the plan to go to Australia, which was quite a big step for you, also, of course.
Absolutely.
For the band rehearsals, it was over.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. But what was your biggest doubt? So you were starting up this business. You made your coffee tables. There were some people interested in your products. I have to say that Mike is founder of Recycle Meat Creations in Australia, and
Yes.
from that on, he's had more than 50,000 followers on Instagram. He has a Facebook link. I will post it also on this video, so everybody can take a look at that. He's making really nice furniture, all custom made, so there's no no piece the same. And
No.
the question is, of course, I have this now because I'm starting up my business. There are some doubts, and the biggest doubt there is that it's me. And how
Yeah,
can you relate with that? Is this something that you're familiar with?
absolutely. I think in the end, people are their own worst enemy anyway. So in this case, I'm my worst enemy. When I started making furniture, or I have to say both of us didn't really have qualifications. It was just a matter often that some people would even ask, "Oh, can you make me a bedside tables with a door and drawers in it out of a specific timber, etc. Can you make it?" And I always said yes to everything, but I had no clue how to make it. So by saying yes, you put pressure on yourself, and then suddenly you have to. And people put deposits down and sometimes pay quite good money for certain items, and then you just simply have to deliver. And I don't mean deliver as in physically deliver the item, but and just as a matter of speaking, you just have to live up to the expectation.
Yeah.
And even now, after doing it for more than 7 years, I still have performance anxiety, to sort of say. Little example, I made a bed for someone last week, and it was some hardwood bed, and it was about $2,000. In this case, we delivered the bed as well, and then I'm still scared that people are not going to like the bed. And you rock up, you set up the bed, and they're like over the moon. They're like, "Oh, this is really great. I love it so much, blah, blah." And that almost happens every time. But yet, if I have to make something next week, I might still have performance anxiety about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can so relate with you with what compares to that, because I'm making my product right now, and sometimes I think, oh my God, you know, is that what I'm providing? Is it a value for my customers? And that's one of the things that we both like, you know. And
Yeah.
of course, customers pay for our products, but yeah, what's their reaction? So maybe a good question is, what is the nicest reaction you ever get when you delivered your product?
I can't remember exactly what we made for. It was a couple. I think they were in their 50s. I remember it was a few things, and they were actually so happy that a few weeks before Christmas, they came to drop by a bottle of champagne.
That's good.
And just a gesture, it just gives you a lot of appreciation. So that's probably one of the best ones. Not because, oh, I get a bottle of champagne, but yeah, sometimes people just go out of their way to do a bit extra. And yeah, just I was really appreciative of the gesture, basically.
Yeah, and it pumps you up also for the next product, isn't it? Because you're going to get you have less self-doubt, because it feels so good when you develop and make this product, and people are reacting very positive about it. It pumps you up for the next time, isn't it?
It's definitely, you basically inspire yourself. And yeah, I always reckon with every achievement, how big or how small it is, it just gives you more self-confidence.
Yeah.
And yeah, self-confidence is an important thing. Just as long as it doesn't become overconfident. But self-confidence is, I reckon, really important. The belief in yourself to be able to either get shit done or to make stuff.
Yeah.
So even to this day, it's still after 7 years that people sometimes ask to make something like some corner TV unit. Can you make it? And I have got no idea, and I just say yes, and I just figure it out. And because you've got the self-belief, as in I've figured it out for 7 years, so I should be able to figure out how to make a corner TV unit.
Yeah.
And yeah, somehow you get there.
And you do this by examples that they gave you, or you do it with measurements that they say we want to have a TV mobilier like this or like that. So how do you proceed when you got this orders?
It could be different because sometimes people just give rough dimensions, as in, I'm just going to say a dining table. They want a dining table that's 2.2 meters by 1, for example, roughly. But they want a certain look or a certain color or a certain timber, because some people really like timber with a lot of grain in it, while other people do not really want grain in it. And of course, that sort of affects the product. In recycled timber, you also have to have a slight margin, because even timber that gets thicknessed and planed and pushed through the table saw today and is perfectly straight today is warped tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you come back the day later and everything you've made straight today is just not straight anymore. So you cannot be 100% accurate with recycled timber. Sometimes you have to. If I made this cupboard for someone in the kitchen, and it had to fit under a kitchen bench top, in between a fridge and something, and that just had to be sort of like millimeter precise. And that is actually quite challenging. But yeah, sometimes luck is on your side as well, and in this case we managed to pull it off to have that it was a perfect fit.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So what decision did you make that you go now for 100% for your business? Was it that you both had some jobs and you did it? You know, your business was getting bigger and bigger, and you decided one day you decided, okay, we gotta get full attention for our business now, full focus, because it brings us money and it's really nice to do, and it's our hobby. So there's nothing better than make a job out of your hobby, isn't it? So is it there in the beginning, was there a struggle that someone from you, like Jane or you, basically had another job with this job, or how did you manage that?
For quite a while I was basically working a job 30 hours a week and doing the recycled furniture for 20 to 30 hours a week. But if you then are months into it, then it just starts to play up. You just can't do 50 or 60 hours every week. And we had a few commercial orders, as in like a cafe who ordered like a bunch of tables and some other stuff. And I just couldn't keep up with it anymore because I was working so many hours. So we decided to take the plunge. One of the main reasons was as well, I think working for yourself does give you a certain freedom. I technically get up when I want. I take breaks when I want, for how long I want them, and I finish or stop when I want. Although that's not entirely true, because if you have a cafe that's going to open in 3 weeks from now and they order 30 tables, they need to be done in 3 weeks. So there is a deadline. So for whatever reason, if you fall behind, that means that you have to make up for it. So suddenly a 9-hour day becomes a 12 or a 13 or a 14-hour day for 10 days straight.
Yeah.
So it's not, it's so, you definitely have more freedom. But it doesn't always work that way.
Now, I relate sometimes to CPR, and it's not about reanimation, but it's commitments, priorities, and responsibilities. And that's full extreme ownership that we have. And for me, it's quite new. It feels quite good. But yeah, as you said, you can get up whenever you want, but you have to get shit done to make money, right? I mean, if you're thinking, okay, it's a beautiful day today in Hinterland, is it pronounced good? Hinterland, and
Hinterland, yeah.
Hinterland, yeah.
Yeah.
Then you can choose what you want and when you're going to work, but it comes with the job to have these responsibilities and commitments that you have to make, and priorities, like you said. If you got this cafe with 30 tables, you have to get it done, and
Yeah.
yeah, it gives you, of course, it gives you a lot of freedom also.
It does. In this case, it's, for example, if you haven't got the tables ready and they are going to open and they miss out on revenue, then they're most likely to take you to court and they'll sue you.
Okay.
So there is definitely then pressure involved.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying sometimes, I mean, working for yourself in general allows you far more freedom, but not always. That's
No.
just what I was basically trying to say with that.
And do you like the pressure? Because I know my ex-girlfriend, when she had a deadline, she couldn't
Mm.
get through. She couldn't get through. But the last few hours, really, when there was really pressure to get it done, she
Yeah.
she managed it. So how
Yeah.
do you work on this pressure? Is it something that you have, let's say, that you perform better when you get the pressure, or do you don't like the pressure?
I think in general I'm quite okay with it, and I don't really mind it because it does basically make sure that you do just have to get shit done. Indeed, that's just the right thing. I'm not saying that the products will come up better, but you'll probably get more done. I personally think I get my best work done if I really have the time for it. I don't know. Sometimes people say, I'd like a dining table in these and these dimensions, roughly with this and this look, but you know what you're doing, and I'm happy with whatever you make. And I'm not in a hurry, so let me know when the table is ready. When it doesn't often work that way, but sometimes people do that. And for me, that's what I like the most, because it basically means I can get the materials, the best materials available to use. I don't know, you get more freedom. I look at it in the same way. If you were to go to a tattoo artist and you would say, here's my arm, this is roughly my idea, but you're the artist and you make what you think looks good. That's what a tattoo artist would like, because they've got this blank canvas and they can more or less do whatever they like. So then you get the best work. And let's say in my field of work, it's the same. If I get freedom to work within, it excites me more. So you probably put an extra effort into it as well. And not having the stress gives you simply the time. But in case of an order like 30 tables, I think the stress is probably good. You just have to move your ass and you just have to stay on top of things.
You gotta get shit done.
Yeah. Yeah, but usually with those things, then certain important tools might break down. And that then again is the funny thing. I have no technical background, for example, and in a particular situation, the table saw ceased to work. It just stopped working. I've got not really much knowledge about electricity or etc. But somehow when I was starting to take the table saw apart, I found what the problem was and I managed even to fix it. And that's just because I'm under pressure. My other option was to basically put it on the pickup truck, deliver it to Brisbane where we got it from, which is like a 2.5 hour drive. Then you have to leave it there, a day later pick it up. So it basically costs you 2 days of driving because I have to go there twice. The money for the fixing, plus you fall behind 2 days.
Yeah.
So being under pressure and having to fix that table saw took me in the end 2.5 hours, luckily. So sometimes, in some ways, it was bad luck that the table saw broke down, but I was also lucky that I managed to fix it, because it's not that I'm really skilled in that particular field.
Yeah, I saw that one of the first things that you made was for your friends was from a chicken thing. You made a bar, and you borrowed some woods from the coffin. Yeah, I know
Yeah,
that.
yeah. That was a coffin factory nearby where I grew up, and they had such nice timber. And as we always used to say when we were young kids, we used to borrow their timber, and we basically made the roof out of the old chicken shed from the timber from the coffin factory. So that was probably the only roof in the world that's made out of coffin timber.
Great stuff. Great stuff.
Yeah.
So, but then your hobby quite developed then, because
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. It wasn't really a hobby back then. It was more like something that needed to be done to make sure that you sort of have your own bar with your mates where you can drink and hang
we
out.
live in the Netherlands here. I will tell it to our audience. We live in the Netherlands here, so we got some rain and some rough weather sometimes. So we really need a roof. So it's not like
Yeah.
that you can live outside and there's nice weather and stuff like that. It's totally different. So I can relate to Mike when he said that he needs a roof for the bar. And yeah, the bar, that was the main thing that was going on, right?
Yeah, indeed. So it was more like, let's say I just enjoy creating stuff from nothing. And whether that is music, or whether that's furniture, or I look at whether it could be pallets, it could be crates, it could be a pile of timber in the paddock in the back of a dairy farm, and the timber is nearly rotting away, and suddenly when you start planing it and sanding it, it comes up really nicely. So it's more or less a pile of crap, or maybe even was supposed to be thrown on the burn pile, but you actually then made it into furniture, and someone is going to use it for decades to come. So it sort of is a bit of creating something out of nothing.
Yeah, I really like the idea, because there's no waste. Well, of course, everybody has some waste, but it's natural waste. So, and that was one of the questions that I had for you. I know that you did some with pallets, that you took them out, and then created some furniture. But I guess you drive down the road and see some factories or something like that, or some businesses that they throw away some stuff, and you just ask them, can I get this one? And you see already some products in it, or that you know gonna that you could use them for another project.
Yeah, it is more or less works like that, but there is a few places that they actually put either their timber or their pallets aside for us. And some places we even still pay for it, even though for them it's a waste product. But just for the putting them away and that other people don't get their hands on it, I just don't have the time to drive around all day and find materials, because that every hour that I'm not productive as in making stuff, you're not making money, but you're basically losing money.
Yeah.
So it's better sometimes to say, hey, I'll pay you $5 or $10 per pallet if you put them aside for me, and just give me a ring when you have 16 or 24 or etc. It's then a half an hour drive picking them up and half an hour drive back. It's better than having to drive around all day to find materials.
Yeah.
And there's also a few builders, they sometimes demolish houses or sheds and then build a new house, but they ring us to say, we just demolished the house, we've got this and this, are you interested? Because otherwise it will be thrown on the tip. And then I drive over with the pickup truck and just basically grab whatever I think I can use.
Yeah, but there's also some kind of relationship that you build off, and people know you now, because I know in your area, you're quite you're recognizable. People know your or is it more online business that I know that we were talked about before, that Jane is really good with the hashtags on Instagram. So you have a very nice group of people that are selling, are buying your products, and it could be everyone, right?
Yes, it technically could be anyone, but in general, it's more the person who is also willing to spend a little bit more money on a product that's likely to be a bit more durable than, for example, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, like IKEA, etc. When you go to IKEA and you buy a new item for your bedroom, you just know in 5 years from now you're not going to have that item anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's most likely has fallen apart.
Yeah.
I, for example, have honestly never set foot in IKEA in my life, because it's just, it all looks the part in the brochure, and it looks great when you go through the brochure of IKEA. But when you buy 1 or 2 items and you bring them home, firstly, the quality is not the best, and secondly, it just doesn't look as nice as the brochure.
Yeah, you can relate
so
it to
I'm
McDonald's.
I'm not a huge fan of that kind of shopping, and that's also not the kind of people I target at, because those people basically want to spend little money for something that looks okay and that will do the job for now. And our target market is a bit more people that are willing to spend a bit more and just want something unique.
Yeah, I can really relate with that, because quality is something that always has a future, I think.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, and if you see like where we live in the Netherlands, I think it's in the whole world, everybody knows this really nice furniture that our grandfather and grandmother had, and basically when they die, we take it to the waste, to the dump. And if you see how good this furniture was, you can really have decades, centuries of this furniture without any damaging it at all, because it's really been a really good material that they used in back in the days. And I can so relate with this IKEA thing. IKEA is perfectly when you want to, when you're going to sit on your own for your first apartment or something like that, and you don't want to spend too much money for the little furniture that you have. But yeah, as you said, it's nothing for the future. If you really want something that's quality, high quality, then please check their site, because it's really good. I saw the site. I got it right here. And yeah, so basically, Mike, I think the business part is something that Jane does, and the crafting is more than like your job, or is it something that between? Because I saw also that Jane was doing some painting and stuff like that back in the days. She got a saw and something like that from her father and mother, because she was really creative and at a young age. So you do that basically together, or is it separated?
No, it's she's definitely also on the tools, to sort of say it. Her creative side's definitely also with colors and paint, etc. And she also basically does the social media side and a lot of the communication with customers as well. So I do most stuff on the tools, but she definitely does a big part as well.
Yeah. And if we go back to when you went to Australia, what was your biggest challenge back there? Was it something like culture? Or no, we talk English because we were playing in a band. Not every Dutch guy speaks English, but we are quite into this English thing. But what was your biggest challenge or biggest struggle, maybe, let's say, when you went to Australia?
There was probably a few, but I think I have to probably skip some of them, because it just then is going to turn into this really long story. Um, you're still an immigrant. You're still not, how to say, one of them. So to basically fit in is a bit of a struggle. And I do think Australia is a bit of a difficult country to get ahead and to get a good job unless you are specialized in a certain field. But if you're not specialized and you just have to compete with more or less everybody, you will see that people were more likely to pick a local, even though that person is less qualified. So they pick the local over you, simply because it's a local. So one of my struggles was to get a decent paid job. I've only been on minimum wage in Australia when I was working for an employer. I hardly have been on minimum wage when I lived in Holland or in the Netherlands. I'm not saying I never was, but in general, I had jobs, even if it was just a little bit, but they still paid more than minimum wage. And there's a bit of a thing that they also often here expect maximum effort, but they pay you minimum wage. And that's where I straight away think like, that's a bit of a contrast. So you expect me to do the best I can, but you pay me the minimum possible. There's something not right there.
Yeah.
And I have to say that's one of the reasons as well why I started working for myself, because I'm just basically getting sick of getting paid minimum wage for maximum effort.
And do you think that you turn around some more respect now that they know that you're working for your own business, that you're producing something instead of just being the immigrant number X, and okay, we put it back in a warehouse and he's going to make some money, but that's it. So you think you can you got more respect now that you have your own business then?
I think so. I just wouldn't know if I was to now apply again simply for a random job. I wouldn't know if it would make much difference. It was more for me. I worked, for example, in a bicycle store, and there was people hired after me, and some of them would come in late every single day. I was a better performer salesman than in one of the better salesmen in the shop, yet I still didn't get the assistant manager's position. So someone who was a local, who comes late every day, who is basically not as good performing as I did, gets the assistant manager's position.
Okay. So that's
what I mean with it's sometimes I've experienced that it was very challenging to try and get ahead if you're not a local.
Yeah. So it's the same thing. I mean, here in the Netherlands, we're quite multicultural, and of course, in every country there's some discrimination and some racism. But somehow you felt that from to you as a person, that you come from a different country, you want to make your best, you want to make it work, and then these things coming up to have this struggle going on.
Yeah, I think, how do I say, I was more or less expecting a little bit of it, because I mean, I grew up in the Netherlands, and it's a little bit the same as in if someone comes from Armenia, you don't really give that person from Armenia the same opportunity as that you would give someone from the Netherlands. And that's just a fact. And that's everywhere. And I can say how wrong it is, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
So I wasn't expecting to come here and they would say, "Oh, we'll make you prime minister." I wasn't expecting that, but I was hoping that would be a bit more job opportunities, or that you can sort of develop within the company. But that's where I sort of noticed a bit that people are a bit more looking at locals or I don't know, just because you still have an accent. Like my vocabulary, my English is not bad, but I still have an accent, and that makes me stand out.
Yeah.
In some jobs, that could be an upside if I was to go and work in hospitality, like a hotel or a restaurant. But in many other jobs, it's considered a downside because you have an accent and you're not one of them. And
Yeah.
I think that a lot of immigrants in Holland will experience that as well,
Yeah.
regardless of where you come from.
Yeah, but because you're always you also speak three languages, right? So it's German, Dutch, and English.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
uno habla español.
Un poco.
Un poco, yeah. And with hands
Yeah.
and with feet, we can tell everybody what's going on. That's one good thing of us. And I want to get back a little bit because it's really nice because as we told, we've been playing in a band together. Mike wrote some awesome music. I wrote some lyrics, and we're all basically a bunch of punking, metal, rocking bastards that created some music. And this creativity that we have is in everyone. If you look back now, there's some point of interest in this creativity as a burning ambition, and yeah, I can relate very much to that. And I really sometimes miss the vibes that we had in the band. And
Absolutely.
yeah, Doris yesterday was here, the bass player of the band, and we sometimes we look at YouTube where some stuff is to find from our band and from our former gigs that we did, and yeah, it was a really cool time. And then I have to be honest, Mike is now for 11 years in Australia, and I think we had one or twice maybe contact. You came over one time when unfortunately your father died. And that was basically the whole contact that we have. And now, when I started my business, I was getting involved with Mike and contacted him because he knows quite a lot of Instagram about his followers and how to proceed for that. Hashtag King. I saw it on the post that you did, and especially Jane. And yeah, so what I wanted to learn, and I think which is really good, is there's always a point that you can, even if it's 12 years, 20 years, 30 years, if you have some relationship with someone, it doesn't matter what kind of relationship, just ask them, the right questions, and they will open up and they give you the answers, because it's human, right? Communication is something human based. Talking about that, how did COVID-19? I think it's a big scam, but how did it affect you on your business or where you live in your area?
Funny enough, like when it sort of hit, it actually completely turned to shit at the start. So every order we had was more or less completely cancelled. So normally we have a 4 to 6 week waiting list, but it got reduced to 4 minutes. And then 1 week later, all the people started ordering desks because so many people started ordering desks to be able to work from home. And now I'm back to a 10-week waiting list. So, which means if you put in an order today, then you have to wait almost 3 months before you get it.
That's quite good, isn't it? So that there's something going on with the country, with the lockdown, and suddenly, all of a sudden, you created more business with this thing that's going on.
Yeah, it's not that it's not been created by us. It was just I don't know, people who work from home and either don't really have a desk or a not workable desk. And it was the same because the schools went into lockdown. So if, let's say, mom and dad plus 2 or 3 kids are all at home in lockdown, they all need desks to either study or work from. And then people find out that if you go to either IKEA or whatever, even if you order something online, is your desk going to fit? So that's where we basically stood out, as we custom make. So we'll make it to fit. So in our case, that was a huge advantage, because I had someone ordering a 3.6 meter by 600 millimeter desk.
Wow.
So where are you going to get a 3.6 meter desk? So yeah, so, and some people were home that much and they got sick of their own furniture. So they started ordering new coffee tables, new dining tables, new TV units, new beds, new bedside tables, just anything. So yeah, we actually went from extremely quiet to extremely busy, and that hasn't really stopped yet.
But that's good. I mean, it comes with the job, and a lot of companies were struggling, especially now in this time.
Yeah, yeah.
You see that they're probably not going to get their head above this COVID-19 how it's called. I don't get the English word, but I think that a lot of companies have to close down now because they don't have any turnover or whatever, and maybe the wrong product for this time. But it's good to hear that you have with your flexibility also, that you can in quite a new business now, because the business is now, as you mentioned, getting bigger and bigger instead of slowing down. So that's I think good, man. That's really good.
Yeah, I mean, from a business perspective, it's definitely good, and in many ways, I shouldn't be complaining because so many people lost their job. But since, let's say, late March, yeah, it's nearly 10-hour days every day, including Sunday, just to be able to keep up. So for my sanity, it's not that good, but sometimes you have to basically take the money when it's there. So, okay, so it's busy for a little while, or maybe a little while longer, but I should be grateful.
Yeah. And is it something that maybe you consider to have another employee because the business is going that fast, or do you want to focus yourself more on, okay, then it will be a 12 or 14 hours work day to have it all together, you know, with Jane and you, and that you don't have to spend money and in times that it maybe is going to get down a little bit, and you have an employee working for you?
I'm still in between two minds, because sometimes there's definitely enough work to be able to expand and to take people on. On the other side, I prefer to keep things simple, because when things are simple, you remain more flexible and it's easier to adapt. Because at home, we have two reasonable sized sheds, which is workable. But if I was to take more people on, actually means I have to find a larger space, have to buy more tools, and a larger space is also more rent. So in the end, your overhead is going to go up, but is your profit going to go up? Of course it's going up, but if you weigh it up, your profit versus the overhead, then I'm sometimes a bit hesitant. So I prefer to keep it simple.
Yeah, it's the KISS method, right? It's keep it stupid simple, and I think that goes all for us, and I think it's a good decision. And the thing is, you never know what's going to be tomorrow, right? So they can lock down every city now. So they tried that and it worked. They locked down the whole world on that moment. So you don't know what's going to be next. And I think that's also the entrepreneurship that you have, that the full extreme ownership that makes it so. That makes that's this burning ambition. You know, you don't know what's going to be tomorrow, but you take full responsibility for that what comes. And instead of saying to your boss, okay, see you tomorrow, and you know, you have your responsibilities, your commitments to him. He's going to call you up. You know, 5 o'clock, when you're done with work, he calls you up for some stupid email or something like that. And I feel then oh, come on, you know, I'm done with work. And the funny thing is, now I'm creating my own business. It doesn't matter if I work 12, 14, or 16 hours a day, because it feels like my baby somehow. And
Yeah.
I had for 8 weeks labor to develop it, and
Mhm.
but it feels like my own. And I think that's one of the most freedom feelings that we have, that we can have something for our own, or full CPR, let's say, the commitments, priorities, and responsibilities with that, and
Mhm.
yeah, to make the best out of it. And yeah, I really liked it. It's a really nice interview, Mike. It's good to see you,
Thank
because
you.
well, quite 8 years, 9 years now.
I think 2016 was when I saw you in Holland. So it's been about 4 years now.
Yeah, yeah. So next time when I got some coffee over here, I'm gonna ring you so you can have a cup of coffee, all right?
Yeah, if we are able to travel, because yeah, of course
Are you still
the
working
whole
now? So for traveling is no possibility.
limited, very limited. I could possibly get away with it because I'm just gonna say European, and I would have to come up with some kind of reason that a family member is doing really bad. So I probably could get exemption, but it still means that when I come back, I have to quarantine for 2 weeks, and that means that I have to pay for it myself. And
Okay.
quarantine means 2 weeks in a hotel.
Wow. Wow.
It's because it's supervised quarantine, so it's not. Oh, I could go home because I live rural. I live on like 2.5 acres or 1 hectare, however you want to call it. But I have to like supervised quarantine, and not supervised that someone is watching you. But yeah, there will be security guards at the reception checking if people leave or not. And when you leave, they either can give you $11,000 fines, or they can even jail you for 6 months.
Wow. Wow.
That hasn't happened. That hasn't happened to anyone.
No,
So,
no. Well, I
but
think
if
getting into Australia wasn't that easy either, right?
no, it's definitely one of the more difficult countries to get into because they are pretty strict in letting people in general, and they've got a high number of applications looking at from a global standard. But in saying that, most Western countries have got a high number of applications, basically, whether it is Spain or France or England or Holland or Australia or America. All those countries have got basically millions of people that want to live there.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course. Okay. Thank you, Mike, for your effort, your time, and your energy. We're going to catch
You're
up later.
welcome.
Your work day has been done now, so you're free to go. Probably.
Get me my free